She awoke amazingly married to a doctor, only to uncover 12 hidden truths about her dark past. Sarah stretched in the golden morning light filtering through the perfectly arranged curtains of her new home. Just days ago, she had exchanged vows with Michael, the town's revered doctor, in a wedding that shimmered with grandeur. As she sipped her coffee, surrounded by the breathtaking decor that spoke of luxury and success, a familiar unease crept in, a reminder of the obscurity she had fought against her whole life. Beneath the surface of her happiness lingered uninvited thoughts of her past, buried memories she thought had long been forgotten. Later that morning, she felt an urge to explore an antique box she'd unearthed in the attic during the chaotic move. Inside, weathered photographs revealed the faces of her family from years gone by, faded smiles from a world she barely recognized. But as she studied each snapshot closely, an unsettling pattern began to emerge. Each picture, each moment of joyful nostalgia bore connections to Willow Creek's elite families, the very people she had yearned to join. A rush of nausea washed over her, and her hand trembled as she flicked through the cards. Michael's success in their new life felt like a gilded cage. She questioned whether her roots tainted his polished image. She could almost hear the whispers of judgment from the likes of Eleanor Grayson and the Harts, people whose privilege had cast a long shadow over her family. The disparity between how she once lived and how she now dwelled gnawed at her self-worth. Should she embrace this life of comfort and acceptance, or should she investigate the darkness lurking behind her family's legacy? Before she could fully grasp the implications of this internal conflict, Michael entered, a warm smile on his face. But even his gentle demeanor couldn't dispel her growing uncertainty. "What's on your mind?" he asked, noticing her distracted gaze. Here lay her first moral dilemma. Should she burden him with her discoveries, or conceal the shadows that threatened to suffocate her? "Just sorting through some old things," she said, unable to meet his eyes. Each word felt like a betrayal of her thoughts, heavy with implications. As they engaged in small talk, the words felt starkly contrasting to the turmoil within her, an internal battle between loyalty to her husband and the challenge of unearthing the truth that could change everything. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. Days turned into sleepless nights, the weight of her discoveries forming a cloud of anxiety over her. Each old photograph sparked a new wave of questions. The secrets surrounding her lineage started to weave into a disturbing narrative, accusing fingers pointing toward betrayal and deceit at the very heart of Willow Creek. Would revealing the truth fracture not only her marriage, but also Michael's hard-earned reputation? With each thought, her breaths quickened, muscles tightened as she envisioned the fallout. Just as Sarah felt she might be ready to confront Michael, she stumbled upon an envelope tucked beneath her childhood photos, a cryptic document hinting at deep ties between her family and the very scandals that shaped the town. Fear gripped her, heart racing, mind whirling. The intensity of anticipation and dread culminated within her. She stood at a precipice with everything at stake. Should she reach for the truth, risking it all, or retreat into the shadows of complacency and guilt? In that charged moment, she clutched the paper tightly, realizing she was on the brink of an irreversible choice, teetering on the edge of revelation and collapse. The days following her discovery felt suffocating yet pivotal, like the calm before an imminent storm. Each morning, she endured an internal tug of war between embracing her newfound life and unraveling the complex web of her family's connections. Sarah's resolve firmed each time she held the envelope, the cryptic document, now her constant companion, yet a heavy burden to carry. One evening, after another day of restless pondering, she resolved it was time to confront the unsettling truths hidden within the folds of her family's past. As she sat at the elegant dining table decorated with fine china, the faint hum of the evening settled around her, contrasted by the impending chaos swirling inside. Michael, immersed in his work, was blissfully unaware of the turmoil she struggled to keep at bay. "Sarah, you seem lost in thought again," he remarked, a hint of concern clouding his features as he looked up from his laptop. The gentle way he scrutinized her made her heart race. She longed to spill everything, but feared the potential fallout. "I'm just thinking about family," she replied, her voice trembling slightly as she glanced down at the envelope tucked beneath her plate. It felt perilously close, threatening to shatter the quiet facade she had built. The following morning brought an unexpected invitation from Eleanor Grayson, a gathering among Willow Creek's elite to discuss charitable endeavors that masked their self-serving motives. Sarah knew this was an opportunity to gather more information, a chance to eavesdrop among the high society she was both fascinated by and resentful toward. As she dressed that afternoon, preparing to carefully navigate the intricate social landscape, the duality of her existence gnawed at her. She was both an insider and an outsider. Arriving at Eleanor's estate, Sarah felt the unmistakable tension between the worlds she straddled, one of privilege and connection, the other of desperation and hidden truth. The splendor of the surroundings was suffocating. Elegant laughter danced in the air, but to her ears it sounded more like a warning than a welcome. "Sarah, so lovely to see you here," Eleanor cooed, her eyes glinting with ulterior motives as she swept forward. The warmth in Eleanor's tone held a sharp edge. She could sense beneath the charm a struggle for power masked by cordial conversation. As the evening unraveled, Sarah listened intently to the whispers of elite alliances. Words like legacy, influence, and favor swirled around her, coating the air thick with implications. Tension clung to her skin. Every shared laugh felt like a mockery of her turbulent past. Then she caught sight of the Hart family, members who had shaped the town's narrative with their wealth. Among them, she discerned connections to her own lineage, flickering snapshots of her childhood dissolving into a haunting clarity. Yet they were unaware of the ties she now felt she had to unravel. Sarah felt the urgency build within her. Discussion turned toward the Community Trust Fund, a vehicle for both generosity and manipulation. She needed to learn the details. Each scrap of information, however trivial, could inch her closer to the truth she sought. In that crowded room, adrift in laughter and clinking glasses, a transformation began to ignite within her. Driven by a surge of self-determination, she approached a cluster of women engaged in hushed conversation. "What do you think about the Hart contributions to the fund?" she ventured, her heart pounding as she stepped boldly onto this uncharted ground. The sudden silence that followed her question felt like a breaking wave, and the looks exchanged between the women sharpened her resolve. Just as she leaned in to gather their whispers, she caught fleeting mentions of her family name, secrets threading through the fabric of their lives. The moment sent shockwaves through her, intensifying her pulse. There was no turning back. She was entangled now, and revelations lay only a heartbeat away. Would she sink deeper into these social waters, confront the facade of elegance, and unearth the truth buried within her lineage? Or would she risk losing everything she had built with Michael to uncover the past? The fateful night bore witness to Sarah standing at the crossroads of discovery and loyalty, poised to decide whether she would continue to be a mere observer or embrace the complexity of her destiny as the secrets beckoned her closer. As Sarah shifted uncomfortably amidst the cluster of elite women, the weight of their scrutiny felt unbearable. Their gaze, sharp and calculated, inspected her closely, as if measuring her worth in the currency of social standing. She felt exposed, yet a flicker of defiance burned within her. The whispered mention of her family name intensified the urgency of her mission, igniting a determination that coursed through her veins. "Why would you ask about the hearts?" One of the women finally broke the silence, her tone tinged with suspicion. Sarah's heart raced, yet she forced a smile, welcoming the challenge. "I've heard their contributions to the fund have been generous. I'm just curious how deeply they influence where the money goes," she replied, injecting an air of innocence into her question. The tactic worked. Interest peaked amid their guarded expressions. "Oh, it's all about connections, darling," another woman said. "The hearts are the ones pulling the strings. Do you know about the plans for a new children's hospital? It's all very strategic." Strategic. The word echoed in Sarah's mind, mingling with the revelations about her own family's complicity in this charade. She needed to dig deeper. As the conversation shifted back to lighter topics, a sense of isolation enveloped her. She was not just navigating a room filled with acquaintances. She was unraveling a tapestry woven from ambition, deceit, and hidden truths, elements that felt eerily intertwined with her own life. Instinctively, she turned her attention back to the Hart family. They gathered in a corner, their air of entitlement radiating confidence. How could they have unknowingly shaped her past, and what connections bound them? It was a question she couldn't ignore. The evening progressed, and Sarah found herself drifting from one superficial discussion to the next. But her mind was ablaze with the secrets lurking beneath the surface. She needed a plan. Something that would allow her to infiltrate not just the social scene, but also the tightly knit web that concealed her family's narrative. Soon after, she spotted Michael across the room, deep in conversation. There was pleasure in his demeanor, an ease she found increasingly hard to share while she stood on this precipice of knowledge. She didn't want to fracture the life they'd built together, but the haunting curiosity of her lineage propelled her forward. She needed to uncover the hidden truths, not just for herself, but for him, too. "Are you all right?" Michael approached her, concern etching his features. His presence was grounding, yet it entangled the knot of tension gathering within her. Would he understand if she confessed her intent? "I'm just intrigued by the dynamics here," she replied, carefully choosing her words. "There's so much beneath the surface." He quirked an eyebrow, a mixture of curiosity and caution. "What do you mean?" As she prepared to explain, a sudden commotion erupted from the contingent near the Harts. Gasps and laughter punctuated the moment, drawing everyone's attention. Sarah's instincts sharpened. It was an opportunity. In the chaos, she excused herself, determined to maneuver through the crowd. Approaching the Harts, she kept her demeanor relaxed, even as her heart raced. "Excuse me," she interrupted politely, fabricating an air of confidence. "I've heard so much about your contributions to the community. How do you choose which projects to support?" The eldest Hart, a matriarch with a piercing gaze, turned to her, a mix of interest and skepticism flickering in her eyes. The answer to her question lingered, the hidden threads of her own family weaving closer. As the exchange continued, Sarah could sense the caution enveloping the Harts. Decision was justified. But it was the moment she stumbled upon a detail within the family's response that struck her with an electrifying clarity. A piece of information that could lead her to comprehend the entirety of her family's impact on Willow Creek and her past. Suddenly, it clicked. All the signs pointed towards a revelation that could change everything. Could she risk revealing her true intentions in pursuit of deeper understanding? Or would she remain entangled in the lies that had so influenced her life? The question hung thick, sparking a relentless anxiety, yet also uncontainable anticipation. Each answer uncovered would shatter the delicate balance of her world. But the tension was far from resolved. The closer Sarah approached the truth, the more complex her entanglement became. Was she prepared to confront not only the hearts, but the entire narrative of her existence? Just as she sensed a breach in the heart's defenses, an unexpected figure stood between them, casting a shadow over her path to clarity. With every pulse in her heart, Sarah realized that this confrontation could reveal more than just secrets. It might unravel everything she thought she knew about herself. The body blocking her path was unfamiliar yet commanding. A man veiled in a tailored suit that exuded authority. His presence pulled the air thick around her, pressing down like an unyielding weight. It was as though the universe had conspired to keep her from uncovering the truth she pursued, and a bitter taste surged in her mouth, mingling with her resolve. "Can I help you?" he asked, his voice smooth yet laced with a challenge. Sarah stared for a moment, her heart hammering against her ribcage. In the wake of her determination, she inhaled sharply, struggling against the instinct to retreat. This was precisely the confrontation she needed to face, to question who would stand in her way and why. "I was just speaking with the hearts about their philanthropic efforts," she replied, her tone steady despite the flash of panic coursing through her. "Interesting choice of topic," he said, tilting his head slightly, as if examining her layers. "These conversations can become quite sensitive. Tread carefully." His warning resonated. Beneath his carefully curated exterior, she sensed an intensity, the type of intelligence that could see through facades, a reminder of the stakes she now played for. Sarah steadied herself, recalling her purpose. She had come too far to falter now. "What is your interest, really?" he pressed, his gaze unyielding. "So many have written off their pasts for a chance at success in this world." Though the accusation hung in the air like static electricity, Sarah found herself fueled by his words. Here lay an opportunity to unveil something deeper, not only about the hearts, but also about her own reluctance to confront her family's shadow looming behind her. "Some pasts are woven into our futures, aren't they? I'm merely trying to understand," she responded, conviction rising in her voice. A flicker of recognition passed across his features, and with it, a hint of curiosity softened his stance. "And who are you hoping to understand better, the hearts or yourself?" That question pierced through her defenses, and for an instant she was caught in the mirror of his inquiry, reflecting doubts and desires she had buried deep. It felt invasive yet liberating. Did she truly know herself beyond these social strata, beyond the facade she had constructed? "Maybe both," she admitted quietly, her gaze lingering on the Hart family. "But I think the answers lie with them." The man's countenance softened as if he'd glimpsed the tempest within her. "Be cautious. In this world, the truth and your identity can become collateral damage," he advised, turning away, but leaving a weighty silence. His words lingered, unfurling thoughts about her veneer. Did she truly have the strength to unearth these hidden threads of her past? Steeling herself, she recalibrated her strategy. She had to summon greater power from within. The hearts had become a symbol of untapped understanding, and she could no longer afford to view them merely as adversaries. Navigating back toward them, she resolved to switch her approach. Engaging in their conversations was not just about extracting truths. She needed to weave herself among them, showcase her relevance in a world drenched in privilege. She grasped the gravity of her position. Every interaction could ripple through her future. As the chatter resumed, Sarah slid back into the mix, inspired by a sudden spark of strategic insight. "But what happens to organizations that don't find success?" she ventured, her eyes locking on the matriarchs. "Is influence enough to ensure a worthy project's longevity?" The question caught the attention of the closest heart, intrigue replaced by a fleeting shadow of discomfort. She could sense the tremor in their polished identities, a hint of vulnerability crackling like electricity between them. The moment stretched, and for the first time, the protective layers began to part. Just then, Sarah caught a glimpse of Michael across the room, his expression unreadable, drawing her focus for only a moment. Could their bond withstand the truth she began to unravel, or would it falter in the face of revelations? The stakes soared higher as she propelled deeper into the intricacies of her family ties. Overshadowing her ambition was a flicker of fear. What if these discoveries reshaped not only her perception of the hearts, but of herself as well? The moment of clarity she sought was within reach, yet danger lurked like an uninvited shadow. She needed to brace herself for what it might unveil. As laughter and tension clashed around her, an all-consuming question pressed against her consciousness. What ghosts would she awaken in her quest for understanding? And would those phantoms empower her future or haunt her forever? The cacophony of conversation enveloped Sarah as she leaned into her newfound momentum. She crafted her words carefully, anchoring herself in this sophisticated environment where every glance and gesture held the gravity of unsaid truths. The matriarch, her attention now fully diverted, responded to Sarah's probing question with a delicate smile, masking the apprehension beneath. "It's the very nature of philanthropy, isn't it?" the matriarch answered thoughtfully, her gaze flickering between Sarah and her family members. "Success doesn't always come from influence. Sometimes it's a matter of legacy. What foundations we choose to build become the scaffolding of who we are." Sarah seized the opening, sensing an opportunity to draw out the complexities of this family's history, to unravel the webs that connected the past with the present. "A legacy can protect us, but it can also weigh us down," she said, feeling the stakes rise again with every word. "Are the hearts ever burdened by the shadows of what came before?" Her question landed, and the atmosphere shifted. Whispers coiled around her inquiry, and she watched as the matriarch's expression faltered for an instant, revealing vulnerability. It was just a fleeting glance, but in that moment, Sarah realized she'd uncovered a crucial thread. Empathy was a weapon she could wield. The room felt smaller as she centered her focus, her pulse quickening with an adrenaline surge of realization. This wasn't merely about the hearts or her journey. It was her awakening, her rebellion against the constraints of family expectations. She stood at a precipice, not just seeking information, but embroiled in a battle to redefine her identity amidst expectations shaped by her past. As she maintained her gaze on the woman across from her, a young heart nearby leaned in, his curiosity piqued. "Tell me, Sarah, what's your story? How did you come to venture into this world?" The question was innocuous enough, yet beneath the surface it demanded an honesty that terrified her. Tension coiled like a spring within her. What would it mean to unearth her own past in the eye of this new storm? Could she trust herself to share it? Yet there was an undeniable urgency. She realized that if she wanted to connect with them authentically, She would need to reveal her own layers. An internal battle raged, but the echoes of the man in the suit returned. Every truth carries a cost. "I grew up wondering where I fit in," Sarah began, her voice barely above a whisper. "I was always attempting to reconcile the expectations placed upon me with my own desires. I still am." The admission settled in the air, heavy with honesty, as she felt the walls around her begin to soften. The young heart nodded, open to her vulnerability, and the small shifts of emotion rippled through the gathering. But peril remained, nestled among the layers. Her heart thudded against her chest. Would this honesty alienate her from them or draw them closer? Then she caught Michael's gaze once more, an anchor of familiarity amidst the din. He watched intently, a flicker of pride mingling with concern shadowing his features. Could she navigate these treacherous waters without losing him? The compensating fears surged again. This was a double-edged sword. Every slice of truth not only unraveled the hearts, but also her own narrative. Unveiling these ghosts would leave her bereft and incomplete if she lost herself in the process. As laughter swirled and intersected with deeper conversations, she pressed against her hesitations, embracing clarity. She was not simply unearthing layers, but forging new connections. The echoes of her past were remnants of strength she could now wield. Yet, rising within her was an unsettling realization. The more she disclosed, the more exposed she became. Would her quest for self-discovery fracture her bonds with those she yearned to understand? The clamor quaked around her, thrusting her into the storm of her own making. Just as she felt the moment solidifying, a sudden discord pierced through the chatter. Someone spoke her name, shattering the fragile atmosphere. An announcement about another prominent heart caught everyone's attention. Panic flickered in her gut. Who would emerge next? What shadows were about to sweep across? As she glanced around, sensing the storm clouds gathering, a heavy burden descended upon her. Would revelation lead to empowerment, or would it unearth ghosts she wasn't ready to confront? The world spun forward with little regard for her still processing heart, as the call for attention echoed ominously. Each revelation felt heavier than the last, and now the real question coursed through her mind. What would she choose to confront next, and at what cost? The reverberation of Sarah's name echoed like a lighthouse warning, drawing not just her attention, but also the myriad gazes of the hearts around her. The moment filled her lungs with an intoxicating mix of fear and possibility. As the sound of her name faded, curiosity replaced it. The room was keen, arrested by the unfolding drama. "Your thoughts on legacy are compelling," a middle-aged heart observed, his voice penetrating the air. "I wonder, how does one balance personal ambitions with the weight of a family legacy?" His inquiry made the atmosphere buzz, a shift from idle curiosity to intellectual challenge. Sarah felt a pulse of clarity cutting through the haze of trepidation. This was not merely a continuation of her personal revelation. It was a chance to engage intellectually, to prove her mettle in this family of formidable presences. "Balancing is intricate," she replied, emboldened. "It requires an understanding that legacy is not merely inherited. It can be redefined through our choices." A ripple of approval traveled through the gathered audience, but within Sarah, a darker undertone emerged. Would they accept her redefinition, or would the notion of an evolution challenge their perception of tradition? Michael's supportive gaze flickered to her again, urging her on, but also begging for caution. His silent encouragement steeled her. Tradition, while comforting, can also be stifling. It is only when we dare to challenge our inherited confines that we truly discover who we are. The matriarch's eyes sparkled with a mixture of intrigue and apprehension. "It seems you've thought much about this. What led you to this conviction?" The question bore deeper than a rest, anchoring Sarah momentarily in her own reflection. Would her pain become a bridge or a blockade? My life's journey has been one of grappling with identities, what is expected of me versus what I desire for myself, she admitted. I lost my footing for some time, but I'm learning that authenticity is a form of courage. Her words carved a path through the noise, permitting the ghosts of her past to hover just outside the circle of trust she was attempting to forge. Awareness flickered within her mind. This honesty came at a steep price, demanding that she delineate her vulnerabilities even further as the gathering leaned in. What had begun as a mere inquiry unraveling her identity transformed into a revelation about her core values. The image of her parents, the expectations they had carved into her psyche, and the limitations they sometimes imposed clashed against her instinct for self-definition. Her heart raced. She was on the verge of either standing unyielding or crumbling into the weight of those expectations. Then a low voice cut through her introspection, another heart, seemingly older, commanding attention. It's significant you mention authenticity, Sarah, but what if authenticity leads you to uncomfortable truths about those we call family? The tension in the room shifted, becoming palpable as all eyes turned to her. Faced with the unwelcome suggestion that her pursuit of authenticity might expose something unflattering about the hearts, Sarah felt the narrative deepen, morphing into a complex dance of empathy and confrontation. This was not merely about her anymore. This was a crucible, a testing ground where she would have to confront the hearts as representatives of her past while also wrestling with her fear of exposure. Are you suggesting, she summoned her resolve, that embracing one's authentic self means unearthing uncomfortable truths about others? That we can't truly thrive unless we acknowledge the darkness of those we hold dear? The hush following her words felt electric, the spark igniting wider discussions of family truths, obligations, and the unspoken burdens they carry. In this unveiling, she sensed a pivotal moment. Her insight had cast her deeper into the narrative web, entwining her even more tightly with their legacy. Sarah found herself faced with a choice that would shape her evolution. Should she delve deeper, unearthing others' concealed narratives for her own growth, or should she retreat into the security of silence, preserving comfort for others at the expense of her voice? As the atmosphere thickened, uncertainty fought for dominance within her. The stakes were rising, and the unraveling she had invited loomed larger with every heartbeat, each question bigger than the last. The moment demanded action. It was time to either cultivate her newfound position or watch it slip away. What would emerge from the depths of this revelation, and what truths were lurking in the shadows of the heart legacy waiting for Sarah to uncover? Would she embrace the challenges of discovery, or would fear send her retreating into the past once more? The crucial point was at hand, and she could feel the weight of the choice pressing down on her. The air in the room shifted again, laden with tension. Sarah's pulse quickened, every heartbeat a reminder of the crossroads she faced. She scanned the faces around her, some skeptical, others intrigued, one or two openly hostile. Each expression clawed at her resolve, drawing her deeper into a dance she hadn't anticipated stepping into. "Authenticity is power," she said, her voice firmer now, "but it comes at a cost." The hearts leaned in, their expressions morphing into a mixture of curiosity and amusement. Did they truly comprehend what she was suggesting, or were they merely enjoying the spectacle? Cost? The matriarch raised an eyebrow, a hint of challenge breaching her poised exterior. What do you mean? Cost as in the risk of discovering what lies beneath the surface of our relationships. What holds true for one may not hold for another, Sarah replied, her confidence sparking against the skepticism clinging to the air. It was liberating and terrifying to say the words aloud, almost like she was casting a fishing line into unknown waters, hoping for a bite. Consider this, she continued, her tone steadier. Every legacy has cracks. We're not just custodians of a narrative, we shape it. The truth can be ugly or beautiful, but it's in facing those truths that we genuinely evolve. The resonance of her message hung in the air, teasing the edges of their perceptions. Sarah caught Michael's gaze again, his expression a blend of pride and concern. There was no turning back now. She felt the thread connecting her to her past unraveling, the secrets she'd buried clawing their way back to the surface. This was no longer solely about defying her parents, but about creating a legacy for herself on her own terms. One of the younger hearts, previously silent, spoke up. But why would we need to dig up the past? Isn't what we have enough? A smirk broke across Sarah's face, an involuntary flicker of defiance tempered with reality. Because if we avoid it, we're destined to repeat it. We're only as strong as the truths we refuse to acknowledge. What's the point of carrying a legacy if it crumbles under the weight of unspoken truths? As silence enveloped the room, the deeper implications of her words loomed large. Could she be the catalyst for change in this tightly woven fabric of tradition? Doubts nudged at her, whispering insidiously that she might provoke resistance she wasn't ready to face. Yet in that moment she felt a shift within herself, a determination strengthening as she recognized the power intrinsic to her voice. The fear of rejection dimmed, replaced by escalating clarity. She no longer wanted to merely exist within this legacy, she wanted to own it. Let's not pretend we don't have our shadows, she pressed on, urgency colorizing her voice. We can redefine what it means to be a heart, not just for ourselves, but for those who follow. For the first time, Sarah noticed the crack in the facade of the family gathered before her. Their glances were no longer filled solely with skepticism, but also something unnameable, a flicker of contemplation. The matriarch's expression softened slightly, betraying a complexity that intrigued Sarah. "And what do you propose, Sarah?" The question hung in the air, an invitation laced with both intrigue and caution. Sarah's mind raced, plotting the landscape ahead, weaving possibility into reality. How far was she willing to go in unmasking truths? Could she perform a surgical strike on inherited beliefs, leaving room for healing? "Honesty begins within these walls," she breathed, steadying herself against the torrent of apprehension. "Let's start with us. Let's uncover our truths and rebuild. Together." Each word felt weighty, layered with consequence, as she awaited their response, her heart drumming a resolute rhythm. The hearts exchanged glances, some apprehensive, others curious, as her proposition hung pregnant with tension above them. It felt as if an invisible line had been drawn in the sand, one that separated old traditions from the potential for renewal. "Together?" an older heart questioned, skepticism re-emerging like a curtain pulled back too soon. What if together means understanding painful secrets we'd rather forget? In that moment, Sarah understood the challenge set before her was monumental. She had opened Pandora's box and knew there would be no retreat without consequence. Yet every fiber of her being screamed for the chance to illuminate the dark corners of personal history, where tangled narratives had long been ignored. Fear mingled with fervor as she prepared to navigate the storm brewing inside the heart legacy. "Together," she echoed, resolute, ready to meet the darkness with clarity, armed with hard-won truths. "We will uncover what lies beneath." With that declaration, anticipation crackled through the air, a magnetic pull toward the unknown. What could those hidden truths reveal? How might they reshape not just her future, but the foundation of their entire legacy? The moment lay heavily pregnant with potential, and Sarah sensed a shift within herself, a resolve that would either forge her into the leader she yearned to be or leave her stranded in the shadows of fear. But as she looked around at the hearts, she knew she had to act. The time had come to face their collective history, and with it, the ghosts they each carried. The silence thickened, swirling around Sarah like fog, as she grappled with the realization of what lay ahead. The question posed by the older heart echoed in her mind. What if the truths they uncovered would unearth more than just dusty family secrets? The weight of potential repercussions pressed upon her chest. Yet, embedded within that weight was a flicker of determination, a fierce drive to redefine her narrative, not just for herself, but for the hearts as a whole. Understanding each other can lead us to a new foundation, she said, her voice unwavering, resonating with an unyielding belief despite the heaviness pervading the room. The silence remained oppressive, yet Sarah felt the palpable tension shift. Curiosity danced on the fringes of hesitation. "Fine," the matriarch finally broke through the quiet, her voice a delicate balance of authority and uncertainty. "Let's say we do this. Where do we start?" Sarah inhaled deeply, her heart racing with the thrill of challenge and the stakes involved. She could craft the beginning of a new legacy, a chance to explore not just collective shame, but also, potentially, the beauty that could emerge from embracing vulnerability. "We start by sharing our stories," she proposed, her mind racing through the layers of family history, secrets both banal and complex, clinging to their identities like ghosts. Each of us can speak a truth, something we've never revealed. It doesn't have to be monumental. It could simply be a fear or a regret. "Are you suggesting a group therapy session?" one of the skeptical hearts quipped, a hint of derision lacing his words. "No," Sarah retorted, suppressing irritation with controlled calmness. "I'm suggesting we create a space where honesty is valued. If we can't be truthful with ourselves, how can we expect to move forward?" Their eyes bore into her, challenging yet intrigued. Michael's steady presence in the back inspired a flicker of reassurance. His unwavering support acted as the anchor she desperately required against the tide of uncertainty. She could feel the push and pull within the family dynamics. Old wounds threatened to surface, and their reaction to her proposal would either set the foundation for healing or plunge them deeper into resentment. "How do we trust that the truths won't tear us apart?" a younger heart interjected, concern flickering in her eyes. "What if the truths are too much to bear?" "Maybe they will be," Sarah conceded, allowing vulnerability to punctuate her words. "But isn't growth forged in discomfort? It's through grappling with the hardest aspects of ourselves that we can build something stronger." The room simmered with potential as the hearts absorbed her words. It was a gamble, but Sarah had come too far to shy away now. She had lit the spark. Now she needed to incite a flame. "Let's set a time. Each week we can gather and share," she suggested with renewed strength. "A commitment to honesty, a pact to face the truths we hide away." As discussions commenced, a chorus of apprehension and hesitant willingness, Sarah felt a surge of energy course through her. She noted the subtle shifts of expression. Interest began to replace skepticism, if only momentarily. But beneath that burgeoning hope, a frisson of self-doubt whispered along the edges of her consciousness. What if her own truths were too difficult to share? The swirling shadows of her past lurked at the periphery of her mind, threatening to overwhelm her just when she needed clarity. Then, as if flipping a switch, another thought ignited within her. What if she took the first leap? It could set the tone, opening the floodgates necessary for others to follow. It would mean revealing her own shadows, the ones she had carefully hidden, but perhaps authenticity demanded that she lead by example. "Next week, I'll start," Sarah declared, compounding the resolve that settled into her bones. "I'll share my own truth." A murmur traversed the room, a mix of surprise and intrigue, her commitment setting the stage for a moment of reckoning, both personal and familial. As the meeting adjourned and the hearts began to disperse, a swirl of anticipation enveloped her. The upcoming revelations loomed ahead, casting shadows that threatened to engulf her courage. What truths would she unearth? Would the cost of authenticity prove ultimately too steep to bear? With renewed determination, Sarah stepped into the unknown, the weight of her decision anchoring her resolve, while an unsettling excitement flickered like wings, a promise of transformation just beyond her reach. Each truth unveiled could shift the very fabric of their legacy, and she was prepared to confront it all. But as she glanced back at the hearts one last time, doubt slithered through her mind. Would they genuinely follow her into the depths? The moment of commitment hung in the air, promising both consequence and liberation. The future beckoned, but so did the shadows of her past, whispering reminders of the reckoning that lay ahead. The week unfurled with an anxious tension that clung to Sarah like a second skin. Each passing day heightened her awareness of the impending revelation, making her introspective more than ever. Every conversation, no matter how trivial, seeped into her thoughts, intertwining with the anxiety of sharing her truth. As the days ticked by, her memories flooded back, moments long buried that twisted like vines around her heart. Reflection propelled her into an unexpected journey, searching for clarity amid a haze of shame and fear. What was her truth? Was it her tenure as a muted witness to family dramas? Or perhaps her own failures at building connections? It loomed over her, an invisible shadow waiting to slink back into view. Preparing for the gathering felt paradoxical. She practiced her words in the mirror, rehearsing tones of vulnerability with an undercurrent of strength. Yet every time she stood before her own reflection, a myriad of insecurities bounced back at her. "Who am I to lead them through the darkness?" a small voice nagged, questioning her worthiness. How could she shoulder the responsibility of laying bare her own vulnerabilities while guiding the hearts into their own? The night before, sleep proved elusive. Shadows stretched across her walls, and with each flicker of the candlelight, her mind played tricks. Finally, dawn crept in, illuminating the corners of her doubt, whispering encouragement that felt distant yet persistently present. When she arrived for the meeting, a palpable mixture of trepidation and excitement filled the atmosphere. The hearts gathered, their expressions laden with curiosity and an undercurrent of apprehension as they settled into their seats. Just as Sarah thought she might dissipate into the wood-paneled room, Michael stepped closer, his presence silently urging her urge to forge ahead. With a steadying breath, she cast a meaningful gaze at the family, her heart racing in anticipation. "Today, I'll share my truth," she stated, her voice steady despite the turmoil within. "I've lived the majority of my life holding on to the idea that my failures defined me. I've watched as connection slipped through my fingers, often choosing to hide rather than reach out. I believed that vulnerability was an invitation to pain, but I'm starting to see it as a bridge to connection instead." Their expressions shifted, some intrigued, others sinisterly skeptical. For a brief moment, she felt the piercing gaze of the matriarch, whose posture loomed as a fortress around her own fears. But rather than retracting into her shell, Sarah pressed on, determined to break through the barriers of preconceived notions. "When I was younger, I had dreams of being something more, a writer, an artist. Life, however, had different plans. I made choices rooted in fear, opting for safety over passion. My biggest regret is that I never revealed this longing. I bottled it up until it felt like a shadow haunting me, and my choices became dictated by others' expectations. It still does." As her voice washed over them, something shifted. The initial tension began to dissolve, Hands shifted nervously, and a few heads nodded ever so slightly. I are not proud of those lost years, but they shaped who I am today. I stand here not because I have it all figured out, but because I'm willing to confront my past and invite you to join me on this journey of rediscovery. A silence settled behind her words, thick with contemplation. For the first time, Sarah sensed the hearts leaning into her vulnerability, perhaps drawing strength from her admission of imperfection. The pause felt electric, crackling with the possibility of shared truths waiting to spill forth, and she knew she had opened the door to healing. But before she could bask in the warmth of acceptance, a voice cut through the air, one she recognized as the skeptical cousin, the very person she worried might turn on her. "And what makes you think we're interested in your regrets? You're not the only one with a history, you know." A wave of heat surged through her. The battle lines felt drawn once more. Would the seeds of connection grow or wither under scrutiny? Did she have the courage to face potential backlash? And more importantly, could she maintain the resolve to guide others through their truths when her own sat so heavily, waiting to be examined? Sarah felt the weight of expectation punctuate the moment, pushing her toward a reckoning. She had ignited the flame, but would it dim with dissent? Would it expand, unearthing new truths or further isolating her from the very community she sought to unite? Steeling herself against the incoming wave of confrontation, she stood firm, ready to explore the depths. The moment of transformation loomed, waiting for her choice. Would she falter or rise again and again as the shadows rolled back? Somewhere deep inside, the flicker of determination grew, squeezing through doubt like a flower breaking through concrete. It was time to confront the conflicting tides of abandonment and acceptance, a moment that beckoned just beyond the horizon, a reckoning that would start not just within her, but within the entire family. As Sarah stood before the gathering of the hearts, she felt that this was not merely a moment of reckoning, but an invocation of transformation. The gathered family had opened the door of vulnerability, and she needed to harness its power. The skepticism in the air thrummed, yet she could sense the shift, the crackle of potential for deep connections waiting to emerge. Collectively, she watched their expressions evolve from initial doubt to tentative curiosity. There was a gravity within this shared space, a chance to redefine legacies and shed the weight of hidden fears. "We all carry stories," she began again, voice steady yet filled with earnestness. "And sometimes our greatest strengths lie within those shadows." Her heart raced as she continued. "We need to weave together our truths, face the shadows they cast, and allow those connections to reshape us." Drawing closer, she lowered her voice. "I urge you to consider, what shadows do you carry? What parts of your stories remain unspoken?" The room was cloaked in an expectant hush, but Sarah pressed on, emboldened. "I know there might be fear in revealing our truths. However, the absence of these truths has paralyzed us for too long. I stand here today, opening a pathway for something greater, not just for myself, but for all of us. Each shadow we embrace brings us closer to authenticity." The hearts began to shift in their seats as uncertainty turned into a curious tension. Yet, as one of the younger cousins leaned forward, his expression was thoughtful rather than accusatory. "But what if facing these shadows leads us to things we can't handle? What do we do then?" "Great questions lie in uncertainty," Sarah replied, glancing around to acknowledge the concerned yet hopeful faces. "But here's the thing, we can't grow in comfort alone. Darkness and light coexist. The moment we unearth these truths, we begin to reclaim not only our narratives, but our futures." She felt Michael's unwavering gaze, lending her strength as she gestured to the group. Just as I've shared my truth, I invite you to embrace yours. Together, let's explore the complexities within our lineage. It's okay to feel fearful, but it is also okay to be brave." Then, as if summoned, the matriarch finally spoke, her voice trembling only slightly. "What do you propose, Sarah? If we share our truths, where do we go from there?" "Accountability," Sarah asserted without hesitation. "Let's hold each other accountable for our growth. From these intimate shares, we can form a tapestry woven with both our strengths and vulnerabilities. It starts with understanding each other, then evolves into supporting each other." A moment hung heavy over the room, awaiting a sign of acceptance. The hearts glanced at one another, evaluating the triaged dimensions of their shared experience. Sarah realized that they stood upon a precipice, one she had bravely embraced. One by one, as the initial reluctance melted into reflection, family members began to share tidbits of their own pasts. A timid elder recounted the pain of losing their dreams for financial stability, while a cousin nervously divulged insecurities masked by privilege. Each revelation met with empathetic hearts, breaking down walls Sarah didn't even know existed. Through this shared vulnerability, Sarah understood that she had carved a pathway for connection, not solely within the family, but also within herself. As she listened with rapt focus, she began to recognize a profound awakening within her. The chaos of uncertainty transformed into a current of solidarity. Each truth unearthed was a step closer toward a united future, a collaborative legacy that celebrated their shared humanity. Days turned into weeks, and with each subsequent meeting, the hearts shared stories of accomplishments and failures, each moment reinforcing their commitment to honor the complexities tethered to their legacy. Sarah, now embodying confidence, found clarity in her own identity within this familial web. The final meeting arrived, a culmination of a journey paved by unfiltered honesty. As they sat together one last time, the atmosphere shifted palpably. The uncertainty that haunted the initial gatherings had transformed into camaraderie built on shared revelations. "I would like to propose a celebration," she stated, unable to suppress a smile, her voice buoyed by purpose. "Acknowledge our growth as individuals and as a family. Let's honor the journey of understanding that has illuminated not only our shadows, but also our potential." Resounding yeses reverberated around the table, enthusiasm bursting forth, weaving a sense of belonging. In this moment, Sarah knew she had not only uncovered her shadows, but had also embraced them passionately, emerging more assured than she had ever been. As the gatherings continued and the hearts planned their celebration, Sarah felt not only transformed, she recognized the pivotal essence of her journey that had led her here, not just as the woman who once felt overshadowed by her past, but as a guiding force that united longing for acceptance with the courageous pursuit of truth. This was not just the conclusion of a chapter, it was the beginning of an ongoing narrative, a story of resilience, vulnerability, and triumph among the chaos. Now, reflect on your own life. What shadows are you willing to confront? Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. It's crucial. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. I want to hear from you. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to share. Only true fans of personal overcoming stories understand the sacrifices needed to triumph. Importance of supporting the channel through these actions.